Okay, so this tutorial we'll be creating something like this. We'll be modeling, animating, lighting our scene. We'll have some cameras and we'll create this nice looping animation of this, UFO spaceship. It's great for beginners, we get to touch a little bit of everything, make some nice basic materials, nice shiny glossy materials, glows, nice lighting, fog, and a simple looping animation, something you can use for your social media if you want a looping video, whatever it is for motion graphics. It's up to you. Anyway, let's get started. So I'm gonna go file, new, general, don't save, boom. So we've got a brand new scene, and I'm gonna delete everything in it. Okay, we don't need the default cube, we don't need nothing in our collection. I'm gonna start from scratch. And what we're going to do is add a mesh, and we're going to say we want a torus. This will be the base of what we're building our ship off. And we're going to change the minor radius, which is here. It's just hidden under the screencast. Apologies, but I'm going to just change that. There we go. And click off. There we go. That's the one. So I'll just increase the minor radius so it's slightly thicker. And we have a wider base, for the ship. Next, we're going to go to edit mode. So, make sure you go into X-ray. So we're going to toggle X-ray and select faces. And I'm going to delete half of those faces. Good. There you go. And then what I'm going to do is make sure I go back to select edge mode and uncheck the toggle faces. Now the inner edge of this inner ring, I'm going to bring up. So I'm going to just drag this up. So, and then I'm going to just press F to fill that hole in. And I'm going to adjust this. I'm going to select the edge loop here. So select the first edge and Alt select the whole loop. And bring this down and scale it out. So S to scale out. I'll move this down. As you can see, now you can see the shape of the UFO kind of forming, right? And here, I'll select the edge loop underneath. And I'll just fill it in. So F, just to fill that in. Now we can do an inset face. So we can create the inset. And I'll just press S. And then this will just give us the underneath our little, where our light will come from. A little mission if you want. And you can just extrude this region in. So I'll just drag that in a tiny bit. There we go. Once you're happy with that, kind of might want to edit this again. So I might want to just adjust that curve here. So I'll just select this loop. Maybe I'll bring this down. Something like this. It's entirely up to you. There's no right or wrong how you do this. And I'm going to select this outer loop. This loop here. So this loop, edge loop. Right click, bevel edge. With the bevel edges, I'm going to increase that segment to something like 3 and increase that width. So I'll get a nice rounded edge. Great for catching reflections as well. There we go. Now, if you go right click, don't do shade smooth. Do for this one, do shade auto smooth and get nice shade smooth here. However, the flat surfaces are flat, which is what we want really. And let's bevel this edge here too. Shift and then bevel edge. Bevel this too. Now, if you don't like that plate like I did try, you can just go here, just select that edge there. But I don't like that indentation, and I'll just want to bring this outwards. Yeah, a bit more like this. You can play around with whatever shape you want. It doesn't have to be this as well. You can make whatever shape you want. Now let's add the slices. So we want to, put these little slices for the light, glowing lights that you saw. So what I'm going to do is go back into edit mode. And what I'm going to do is make sure I have my edge selected. I want to look at it from above, and I want to select Alt and select Alt Shift and select these edges. So it selects these loops. As you can see, selecting loops. And then what I want to do is every 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So somewhere here, was it 5? Can't do it by eye, but say there, this loop, this loop, this loop, something like this. And these will be my little cuts in the model. So what I'm going to do is just say bevel edges. And if I drag, you can see we have a lot of segments. That's from the previous settings. So what I'm going to do is reduce those settings to 1. Okay, and then you can change the thickness if you want it bigger. It's up to you. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can make it really thin. Entirely up to you. And then we want to extrude along faces. So I want to say extrude along normals, and we can extrude this outwards. So if you want, so in the previous that version I showed you at the start that I created, just the example, I don't have it saved because I just closed it. But I had them extruded inwards. Perhaps for this one I'll extrude them outwards, so just, I'm just doing something slightly different again, but you can choose to have them inwards or outwards. It's entirely up to you. And what I want to do is actually, with those faces selected, before I do anything, I'm just going to go here to the object data here, and where it says vertex groups, I'm just going to plus, and where it says group, you can rename this. I don't know, I'm going to call this lights. I'm going to rename these lights. And then I'm just going to say assign. So when I want to select these faces later on, if I was to click off that, rather than me selecting these faces like this, and I want to add a material, I can just say, click on the vertex group select, and it will highlight these already. So it just saves me that selection. Okay, so just to save you a little bit of time. Okay, there we go. So we created our ship. Pretty much, we've modeled it, nothing too complicated. Now if you want these rounded edges, you can bevel these again. So if you wanted to, like, for example, just as an example, you don't have to do it, but you can say like bevel edge again, and you can make these like nice rounded tubes. But that's an option, up to you. I'll leave that up to you. If you want to add that to your ship, you can. Anyway, next what we want to do is add a material to this. So we're going to go here, material properties. So the little orb, or we can go up to here, shading. Probably easier just to go to the shading tab. And we want to create a new material for this, right? And then new. And this material is going to be metallic. I'm going to drag it up to about 0.8 and bring that roughness down. Something like this. Now if you want to get a little bit fancy with the roughness, what we can do is link this to a color ramp. So if I drag off and then start typing color ramp, we have a color ramp that I can move. And as you see, as I adjust the gradient, you can see the black and white. As I adjust, it's more glossy. And then what we want to do is in the factor here, if I drag off the factor, I can now assign a noise texture to this. So now we have a noise. As you can see, now we've got these patches. So if I adjust the scale of the noise and the detail and the roughness, you can add that, just a little bit of detail in there. Nothing too fancy. Let's go from 4D. And give it a second to catch up. My machine's a bit old. One. There we go. You're struggling. Apologies. But yeah, you can play around with those materials. But yeah, you can play around with this and the detail, like I said, the roughness. Well, it's up to you anyway. It's just extra if you want to add some extra, extra detail in there. It's not perfect chrome, Experiment with that anyway. We've done that. So next, what we're going to do is go back to our layout. So if I change my viewport shading here to the top right, viewport shading, and I uncheck scene world, and let's choose this night sky so you can see again this nice, it's not perfectly chrome looking ship, or maybe the studio one, or even the daytime one probably showed better, but there you go. And we want to add these lights now. We want to add the glowing lights. So what I want to do is rename this material, I don't know, metal. So this is our metal texture. And I'm going to press plus. And we're going to create a second one. This material new will be our light or glow. I'll just call this glow. Okay. And where it says surface, I'm just going to change this to emission. Okay, and that's all we needed. Now to assign this glow to the selection, we need to actually go to edit mode. And if we go to our vertex, where we had our vertex group selected, we just have to say select the vertex group. So you click on light, select the vertex groups, and you notice they're already selected. They'll select them for us. And then go back to your little material properties. Make sure you have the glow selected and assign it to those faces. Now you can see those are assigned. So if I tab out of edit mode, we've now assigned that emission material to the faces. Now if I increase the emission, you can see it's getting brighter, but there's no glow. So we need to go to our render properties, and for us to see some kind of glow, we turn on bloom, and we get this nice emission material, and it looks kind of cool. You can also turn on your ambient occlusion, your screen space reflections as well. For now, but there you go. Now you can see this emissive material is really powerful because I've bumped it up to 30, so you probably want to bring this down maybe 4 or 5. It doesn't need to be really powerful, and it doesn't have to be the same color. So that previous one I had it as orange, maybe this one is green or purple or blue. It doesn't matter what it is, and you can play around with those colors, but you get the idea. I'm not a fan of that noise texture right there, so as well on the metal. So that roughness, I can actually just disconnect that. I'll go up here, disconnect, remove that roughness matte, and I can also disconnect. The other way to do it is just go into here. I can disconnect this and disconnect this, and then I can control this roughness here and the metallic here. I prefer it actually clean. So that's the look I'm going for. But you can use your own materials and whatever you prefer. So underneath here, I didn't save that selection, so I can select that face in edit mode. Go to my materials up here. Click on the glow and assign that as well underneath. So now we have our UFO body built. Really simple, right? Didn't take us too long. So we modded that in like about 13 minutes. A lot of the time I was waffling on, so apologize. Anyway, mesh. We want to add a UV sphere. And this is going to be the dome. And it's a lot simpler than it is, so we don't have to actually do anything. Just going to scale this down. Make it smaller. Bring this in. And if you want, you can leave it cutting through. It actually looks kind of cool. And what I'm going to do is just right click, shade smooth. It's nice and smooth. And we're going to create a material for this new material. Then we can go up in here to the shading tab so you can see what we're doing. A bit bigger. And what we want to do is on the shading tab, we want to change the transmission to 1 if my machine catches up. Apologies, it's frozen again. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, but the transmission to 1 and the roughness I'm going to bring down. So it's nice and glossy. I get this nice kind of glass ball, So it's like you don't know. You don't know what's in there. It's just refracting what that world environment is. So we can't see if it's really a UFO or if it's it's a trick. Maybe it was just we didn't see it really in the sky. But anyway, now we have a UFO made. Right? It's pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is parent these together. So got this and this together. I'm gonna say join. And now if you look into your collection, you can rename this UFO, not UFI, UFO. Or you can name it whatever you like. And it's one object that we can move around. I'm just going to leave it in its default position at 0. So as you can see here, everything's set to 0 on the actual positions. And what I want to do is add a light. So I want to add a spotlight. Light. And we want a spotlight. Now it can be any light actually if you want. Depends on what you're trying to achieve. And we're going to bring a spotlight in. And with the spotlight underneath, I'm going to shift select, right click, parent to object. So now wherever this goes, the spotlight moves too, which is what we want. So next we want to animate this, we want this moving. So before we do anything, let's animate the rotation of this. So we know it's going to rotate on this Z axis. So we can go here, we're at keyframe 1, and we know we want to set a keyframe at 0 on the rotation here. And at 250, I want it to rotate, I don't know, 720 for now. Okay, we can increase this number later, but now we've got this rotation animation, the UFO is rotating, as you can see, and it should, and that will loop because it's a 2 revolutions and it's looping. Okay, as you can see, it should loop back in a second. There you go. Let's pause that. That's 720, and that looked pretty slow, the rotation, but maybe I'll do it like 1440, so it does it 4 times. I've got 2 keyframes, make sure I move that to the end. There we go. So that should speed it up because I've just done it like 4 revolutions. You notice as well that it's got a slow build up with that rotation. With those 2 keyframes selected, I'm going to just say interpolate linear. So it doesn't slow down, it's a continuous, animation, linear. There's no slow, it doesn't ramp up and ramp down. Because we want it to loop, So we want like a linear animation. In between keyframes, you can add some weight if you want. We will play around with that later anyway. Anyway, so we've done pretty much, we've modeled it. We've got a little rotation animation. Now we want it to move and fly around. So what we're going to do is add a mesh. We're going to curve. And we're going to say a circle. We're going to use something just as simple as a circle. Circle curve. I'm going to scale this up. So S to scale up. Like so. And what we want to do is say animate along this path. So we're going to select our UFO. We're going to go to here to constraints. We're going to add. And we're going to say follow path. Now you're going to have to choose a path for it to follow. Which will be this Bezier circle that we've added. Don't worry, it's gone upside down, that's fine. Just make sure you change this to fixed position and follow path, and it should be on the Z, not the Z. Why is it upside down? As bizarre. Let's see. That was all. Let me delete this follow path. Let me check my. That is fine. Everything there is fine. Add a constraint. Follow path. Bezier curve, and I have no idea why that's upside down. Now I'm going to rotate this to fix it. So if I go back here, it's 180. I'm not sure why it's upside down, to be honest. Or am I upside down? No, I'm not upside down. This is upside down. Okay, I've never run into that before, but yeah, if it's upside down, just rotate it around. We're going to say fixed position and follow the curve. Now here where we have the offset factor, apologies, but I mean, you might have run into that same issue, I don't know. But that's the first time I've run into it, and I solved it, it's okay. But what I want to do is now keyframe this offset factor. So go to my first keyframe. I'm going to click set a key here. Go to the end keyframe, 250, and set that to 1. That's set a key. Now, if we hit play, again, you'll notice it has a build up, so we have to go and edit our keyframes on that. It slows down, then it picks up, see, and we don't want that. We want it to continuously, we don't want it to slow down. So we're going to open up, expand our timeline. Just going to open up this summary. Click on the offset factor keyframe here and just interpolate to linear, and then do the same on this one, interpolate to linear, and that should now be continuous. Shouldn't slow down or speed up. There we go. And we've got a nice 360 animation. Now you can drag this back down and collapse this down if you like. It's entirely up to you. There we go. So now we have that animating looping, the animation loop. Next we need to edit our path. So now we can go tab, edit the spline. And we're going to move this up like so, maybe here. And then this one maybe goes in, and it goes out. There's no law to how it should work. Like I said, go up like that. Perhaps this one goes in like this. Until you're happy with whatever you want. Now you got a little animation. And now I'll go back into edit mode, and I can move this spline up, slightly higher up. Yeah. Got this cool little animation done, and it loops. So next, let's add a plane to our scene. So we're going to add a plane. I'm going to scale this up nice and big. I'm going to assign a new material to this, and I'm going to make it slightly metallic, bring that roughness up, and change the base color to like black, glossy black. There we go. I'm going to change this to like a studio light, or maybe night sky scene, something. It's up to you. You can play around with that at a later point. But there we go. So next, what I like to do is I like to split my workspace. So I'll do a vertical split. I'll right click this edge here. You can see where my mouse is over here. I'll right click, vertical split. And what I like to do is have one viewport from my camera, what the camera sees, and the other viewport I like to work in. So if I'm working here, if it doesn't freeze on me, yeah, I'm not sure why it's freezing, but there we go. But add a camera, and if I hit 0 on the numpad, I'll go into the camera view. If you don't have a numpad and you're like on a laptop or something, you can go view, camera, then set active camera, and now you can see that what the camera sees. So if I move the camera back, forward, you can see there's the camera there, and I'm looking at the UFO from that camera's point of view. And I hit home to fill that screen, the home key, and then it fills the cameras to that viewport. What I like to do is actually view this in shaded, like full shaded viewport, uncheck these little gizmo widgets. Now just have a clean feed of that. but also on the camera options in the viewport where it says passport out over here, I like to put this up to 0. So now I just fully focus on that, and I can see what I'm looking at. And this is kind of this is my end, gives me a better idea of what the end result would be. Have you noticed the camera is not following? So we want the camera to follow the object, our subject, and we can easily set this up. So we're going to add a constraint to the camera, and we're going to say object constraint track 2. Okay, and what we want to track is the UFO. So target will be our UFO. So now if we animate this, you'll see the camera now follows the path of the UFO, which is cool, right? So we'll always have it in we're tracking the object. We'll always have it in camera. So next, all you have to do is animate the camera. So you can say, well, at the start scene, perhaps I want it to be, out here, and then I can set a key. So I'm going to just actually do auto keys on this. So I'm going to do auto key selection. So maybe I'll move it here, camera, and then that's further away, and then maybe here. I'm sorry, or above it, and something like this. Be closer. There's no rules. So, we're going from this to this. And what I'll do is copy those first keyframes on the camera. Copy. And make sure I have those at my end keyframes. So my start and end of the camera keyframes are the same. That way we have a nice loop. And then anything in between, I can keyframe different. It doesn't matter. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. So I can, can have it go from here to there to there. Maybe I want to see underneath the ship somewhere here before we loop back, and maybe I want to pull back, looking at the ground or something. I don't know. Could be completely, and then it'll snap back. It'll go back to the beginning. There we go. I hit play. This looping animation. Yeah. Now I'm not happy with that keyframe there, however, because maybe it's too short, so I can move those. I can move these keys in. So I don't like that. I don't know. There was something about that. Oh, so that there you can see is the curve. This curve here. You can see it's not very smooth. So there's no spline there. So I can select between these two here, and then say, I believe you can say subdivide. There we go. Now we've got a curve, extra curve here. Smoothing that out. Smoothing that out. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, see that smoothing that out, but I just added the extra point in the curve. Oh yeah, make sure you uncheck the auto key. There we go. So now we've got a looping animation, and the camera will loop too. So it'll follow it. The start and end point are the same, so it's always going to loop. And it's entirely up to you. You can change those angles, or you can also change your camera properties as well. So here, if you want to change the make sure you come out of edit mode, camera, you can change the focal length. So if you want more or less, entirely up to you. There's no law or rule. So you have to use the default camera. You can change orthographic. There you go. That's an orthographic camera. No one said you can't do it. You can do whatever you like. Yeah, it's a tiny experiment, panoramic. play around with all the different types of cameras, different lenses, lens settings. I'm not going to go into depth of field. You can turn that on and stuff as well if you want. I'm not really going to focus on that too much. But yeah, you've got all the options that that you can play around with and experiment. I'll leave that for you to learn and explore. And maybe I'll make another video on depth of field and stuff. But yeah, we got looping animation. Now you can see this ground plane is slightly too small. So maybe I want to extend this out. Make it a lot more bigger. There we go. Maybe that's too big, but smaller. Again, smaller or bigger? I don't know what I've done. Anyway, I'll bring this. Oh, I've gone. Okay, let's just put it back to 10 by 10. That's I can make it big. Instead, maybe I will, if I can find the right edge. Not sure which one, but I'll just extrude these up. So E to extrude and bring these up. There we go. This, see how that looks. Okay. And this wall here, we need to extrude this. Let's extrude this wall up as well. There we go. Okay, so we got individual walls, we're just boxing it in, but and then if I want, I can bevel, maybe I can bevel these edges. If I change the bevel size, these are just bevel this. Can I bevel this? Shade smooth. Actually, don't even do that. I'll do what I did. Delete this plane. Don't even do that. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need no floor. You can even put it in a sphere, or so sphere. Shade that smooth. Like that. We're flying around inside the sphere. So, and then we could of course assign that material that we created for our floor to it. There we go. Then I don't have to worry about anything disappearing. Next, what I want to do is add some lights in there. So right now it's like, so we want to add, so we've got you can see we've got this spotlight. However, we can't see the spotlight, and we're going to add fog to see that. But let's add some lights in here. So we're going to add a point light here. Actually, it's not a point light. Let's use so it's up to you. You can use a point light or area light, entirely up to you. I'll scale this up. I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to point it over here. And we're in the scene, this direction. Okay. And I'll increase the power. I don't know, 1500, 1000 actually, 15,000. You can see it's just hitting that. And then I want to change that to maybe like a purpley blue. There we go. And the spaceship's hitting off, catching bits of that. And you can see that's quite cool. We see the shadow of the ship there on that sphere. Yeah. Getting bits of the light. I like that. Anyway, and I'll duplicate this again. And I'll rotate this. And say you wanted it's not just cameras where you can assign constraints to it. So say you want a light to follow that object, you can also do that too. So with this orange light here, if I wanted to say add a constraint, I can say track 2, and I can say also follow the UFO. So now you can see that light is tracking it. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. but there's no rules. So you can track a light or not track a light. You can track a camera, not track a camera. But yeah, you get a nice animation anyway. I like that. You get then some nice cool effects, like so. Do 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 do. And remember, anytime you don't have to use this viewport like this night scene. Like I said, it can be a day scene, it could be an outside scene, it could be this scene. You can have your own HDRs if you want to load those in. Entirely up to you. For now, we're just sticking with the default Blender ones inside the scene. You can play around with the strength, you can reduce it, you can dial it up, rotate this round to to something you like. Have a play with all the settings, get a completely different look. Now I'm gonna bring that power level down on this second one because it's really powerful here. So maybe I'll reduce this by 0. There we go. Yeah. Now go to our render properties. We do have screen space reflection already on. I'm just gonna uncheck half trace, okay? And let's turn on refractions as well. I don't know if this will help. If I go to our material on the UFO. I'm not sure if we was using refraction, to be honest. Let's see. Scroll down. Screen space refraction as well. Give it a second. Oh, unchecked it. There we go. And that looks so much cooler. We're refracting what's going through that glass and get this kind of cool effect. There we go. Don't forget to save your work in case it crashes, so always save as. I'm going to save it to my stuff folder where I save all the stuff. I'll just call this UFO. Sorry for the coughing. UFO tutorial. Save. Oh, looking good. We're making progress here. So now we want to see that spotlight, right? This spotlight here. So we need to add some fog into our scene. Okay, so we can see these lights a little bit nicer. So we're going to go add in a mesh and a cube. This will be our volume fog, okay? And it's going to be inside our sphere. Don't worry right now if it's gone all white. We're going to apply a new material to this. So new material. Where it says surface, we're going to disconnect this. It's going to go black. That's absolutely fine. And we're going to go here on this volume. I'm going to just open it up. Volume, and we're going to assign principal volume. There we go. And now it starts to come to life. You got some kind of fog inside. Now we're going to change the density on this. So I'm going to say 0.05. And now we should start to see. You can see here, there's the fog and the light. The UFO. Now maybe we'll change this to a 2 instead of 5, 0.2. There we go. Like that. We get a bit of nice, get a nice light from that area light over there. Some nice, really soft, but we can't see that spotlight. So our spotlight we click on because it's only at 10 watts. If we change it to something like, I don't know, 1500, you can still see it, but it's not enough. So maybe 15,000. 0. There we go. We have a spotlight, from my UFO. Maybe it's trying to beam someone up. You can change that radius. So if you want to, where is it? The size here. If you want to, animate that as a beam. Maybe you want to increase that to 25,000. Or maybe add another 0. Make that intensity stronger. Entirely up to you. And it doesn't have to be that color. It could be this color. You may notice this the quality is prep. We go to our volume and the options in the here, volumetrics. You can change that tile, or you can increase the samples as well. So if I change it to something like 2, you know, it's a lot sharper because the tile size is smaller. And if I go back to my lights, I can change that size. But you get the idea. Maybe 25 is too much now, in my opinion. 15 or maybe a 0 away. Something like this. It's up to you. You can play around. I'll leave that up to you. But we've created a looping animation. Ignore it looks like smoke just because of the preview. It's just trying to denoise it. That's just my machine's getting old now. But yeah, if I pause it, you can see what it actually will look like. And you can tweak these lights. You know, you can maybe move these in closer. Maybe you want to add some more power in here. I don't know. It's entirely up to you. There's, you know, play around with all the settings. There you go. Hopefully this was useful. And one more last thing we're gonna do, just to make this that, you know, a bit more stand out a bit more. Just go here to film, not film, sorry. Minimize this. Color management. Where it says film it, we can leave it there. Look. Let's just do like something like very high contrast. You know, it just makes it look so much more. But you can play around. It might not be something you want. You might want to do that in post or somewhere else, in After Effects or in, you know, in the compositing section. You know, you might want to do that yourself. But you can play around with that. Just doing that, you know, just adds so much. Just there's so much life to it. Yeah, hopefully that was useful. Great. Hopefully useful for beginners. You know, you get to create a little project, little UFO, follow it around. We've got some lights. If you do want to render this animation out, go render animation. Don't forget to change your render settings here. So that's your resolution. Just quick overview. Your start to end. So ours is 1 to 250, but default we just left it at default. Where you're gonna save it. So the temp here, that will be on your C drive. If you want to change that path, you can change it. Change it as a PNG or whatever format you prefer. Make sure RGB. You don't need an alpha unless you want an alpha. If you do want to have it with an alpha channel and have, make sure then you're gonna uncheck. Where is it? Got here, film, and then make sure you check transparent if you want it with an alpha. Make sure this is checked. And apart from that, hopefully this was useful. You know, enjoy the rest of your day, morning, evening, or night. Thank you again. Bye bye.